Alright, so the next thing that I need to do is take the animation that we have, the dynamics simulation that we've created, and we need to bake that out into actual animation keyframes. Now the reason that we need to do this is that if we try to render this just from its dynamic simulation, it's probably not going to flow as well as it's supposed to. Plus, there are sort of slight arbitrary differences, like it might bounce one way or another way based on how the processor handles that dynamics at that point in time. Also, if you're batch rendering, if you're splitting this perhaps amongst a few different computers, each frame is basically going to be on its own, which means that it won't have the frame previous to that frame or the frame after it in order to determine where the actual ball is going to be. And one way to sort of think of this is if we just click at a place on the timeline, we'll click there. It looks like, okay, the ball's there. If we click around here, the ball is still there, and if we click around at different places, you can see that the ball is more or less in an arbitrary position at any one of these points, and that's all of the information that the computer has to render from. If you're rendering a batch file, or if you're rendering on multiple computers, say at a render farm or something like that. So what we really need is, for this ball, we need to nail down its positions and really bake that in as animation information, and just sort of take out that dynamics unpredictability that we have there. So in order to do that, I'm just going to rewind, and finding the place where baking this simulation can be a little bit tricky. It's not under any of these menu options that you might think that it would be under. It's actually under, and if I can remember, it's under Edit, Keys, and right down the bottom there's Bake Simulation, and I'm just going to click on the option box here. Now the keys that I want, I'll just come through and play a little bit, just so that I can select this ball here. Now I'm going to select the keys that or the channels that I want to key here in the channel box for this object. So in the Bake Simulation options, I'm just going to pick Selected, and from Channel Box I'm going to have the whole time slider, and I'm going to sample by 1, which means that every single frame it samples the actual position of the ball and bakes out a keyframe for it. And yep, I think that's about all that you need to set. I'll just come down, keep on baked keys. Yeah, we don't need to worry about that. So I'm just going to click on Bake, and it's just going to go through that simulation, just go through the dynamics about one last time. And there we go. Okay, now this means that now if we do what we did before and we click on the timeline at any particular place, say that that's keyframe, or that's frame 86, you can see where that ball is and what position that ball is in. If we click over here, we can see that the ball has moved. If we click back to frame 86, we can see that it's still in that position. In fact, now we can actually scrub backwards and forwards in the timeline. We couldn't do that when we were running off simple dynamics. And in fact, we can actually play backwards now, which is something that we couldn't do before, even though it does seem to be going a little bit slowly. But we can, but you can see that the animation is in there, and it is following pretty much the exact same path as we we had with the dynamics simulation. So now if we just have this ball selected, and we'll go up to Window, Animation Editor's Graph Editor. Let's have a look and see what we've actually done, what we've laid down here. So I'm going to just frame up all, and you can see that we have these graph curves for our ball animation. Now each one of these curves is made up of hundreds of these actual keyframes. In fact, there's 250 keyframes for every curve that we have here. There's 6 curves, so you're looking at, what's that, 1,500? I don't know, I was never very good at math, but I think it's about that. Of actual keyframe information, which is a lot of information to deal with. Now, a lot of people will tell you to simply take these curves and simplify the curves on all of these things, and everything will be fine. So if we wanted to do that, we'll just select all of these curves here, come to Curves, and Simplify Curve. And if we just click on that, okay, it's not working at the moment, and that's probably a result of our scale being slightly different to what we're used to. So if we just go up and reset settings, and we'll try simplifying again. No. I'm just going to increase the value tolerance to I might try 10 and click on simplify. I probably need to actually select these, and we'll try it this way, and I might reset just to see if it works this way. Okay, so we select the curves over here in the left here, and you can see that we have a lot less keyframes, and these curves are following more or less the same shape as they did before. So, has this fixed us up? Well, let's just have a look. If we rewind and play, just watch the movement of our ball. Okay, it seems to... oh, wait, whoa! What's going on there? That doesn't quite look the way that it did before. You'll notice that particularly where it bounces here, it sort of bounces around in a sort of a curve rather than any sort of any sort of sharp, hard movement, any hard bounce against this wall. It's almost like you're throwing one of those balls that's got like a smaller, heavier ball inside, one of those sort of wacky balls that that you might use on a tennis court for a joke, but it's definitely not the sort of realistic animation that we had before. So what went wrong? Well, you can see that all of these curves are fairly smooth. Even these sorts of high points here, these peaks, which were fairly sort of hard corners, are now sort of gradual sloping sort of rounded corners and edges. And if I just undo, there we go. You can see that we have more of a hard edge, more of a hard sort of point there, a harder point there and there. And also if we zoom in and just sort of move around, we can see that there are a couple of places where we have got fairly hard edges, like this point here and this point here, this point and this point. These are fairly sort of definite corners, and once we simplify these curves, just watch these corners and see what happens to them. So we'll click on that. You notice that that corner completely disappears. This just turns into this sort of soft plateau, and that's what's causing all of our problems. So in order to fix that, I'll just undo. I'm just going to come back to simplify curve. I'm just going to go into the options here. And what I've found best is if we actually turn it to classic, and we can try a couple of variations. If we hit apply, it doesn't seem to do much. If we change the value tolerance, because we're using centimeters instead of meters, it's possible that its value tolerance is a lot finer than it needs to be. If we go up to 1, that would be more or less the same value as we had before, as we would have if we were using meters as our measurement. And so if we click apply on that, you can see that we have simplified these curves a lot, but we do have more of these sorts of corners, these sorts of sharp points. So I'll just click here and undo. And what I'll try is I might try to turn this to something like 10 and see how that goes. Okay. Now you can see that we've taken out a heck of a lot of these points and these keyframes. We've got hardly any compared to what we used to have. Now we might have gone a little bit overboard here because a lot of these are looking a bit smooth. But let's just see what it's done to our animation now. Okay, we can still see some of that rounded bouncing around there. So I'm just going to come back to the curve editor. I'll come up to curves, and under simplify curves, I might try this on 1 and see how that looks. Okay, so you can see we have reduced the number of our keyframes a heck of a lot, but we still have that animation that we wanted before. We still have that sort of nice sharp knocks as it comes into contact with walls and all those sorts of places. And so that's pretty good. Now if you want to reduce this even further, what you can do is look at these graphs that really do only have fairly loose curves, and you could come in here, this graph for instance, which I think is yes, it's this one. Mind you, this has got that sort of that area there. If we look at this one, we might be able to reduce this one more than the others. This one's got sort of a sharp one there, so I'm not going to select that one. If I select this one, now this is just one long sort of curve, so I'll add that one. This curve has got a bit of a sharp point there, so I'll take that one out. And this one's got sort of sharp points here, so I might take this out. But these ones are fairly smooth, and even though there's a bit of a sharp point there, I just want to see what happens if I take these and simplify these curves even a little bit more. So first I'll say, yeah, I'll just undo that, and so I'll I'll come up to curve, simplify curve, and I'm just going to take the value up to 10 and simplify, and let's see how we look now. And there we go. So you can simplify these curves depending on how much simplification you can get away with.